I don't remember what was said when I caught you two in bed. But now I sit here drinking shit beer, chasing Johnny Walker Red.
Hello, welcome to Season 2 of Clown Interrupted with KiKi Maroon. That's me. It's been a little while. Thank you so much for your emails, messages, worries, and concerns. So I do want to start off by catching y'all up on why it's taken so long to get these episodes to you. First off, no. I did not relapse and my health is fine. That was the number one concern and I totally get it. After my cancer scare and surgery back in episode 6, things got a little dark. But I promise I am A-okay now. Nothing has grown back and the doctor said I don't even have to check back in until this fall. So everything's great. So why did it take so long? Well, originally, I wanted this podcast to be weekly, but I had to change it to seasons. There's a lot of travel involved with finding artists who are comfortable sharing their stories. That, plus the post-production work, makes this a very time-consuming project. But I love it. I love getting to connect with these people, and I extra love getting to connect with the listeners who write to tell me that something that we talked about resonated with them. So I will 100% continue this show. I'm just not going to be able to make it weekly until I have more resources. And by resources, I mean money. Mine was drastically drained after all the medical stuff that we talked about in episode 6. So I spent most of 2019 working 4 or 5 jobs. So while it was a busy and hard year, it was also a great year. My comedy burlesque show, KiKi Maroon's Burlesque Lounge, was picked up by Live Nation. So now it's a monthly multi-city production. And I even gave my first TEDx talk. It's called The Beauty of Rock Bottom. You can guess why. The video's not released yet, but I'll put it on the website once it is. Also, I started a separate Instagram for this podcast. There's a lot of sobriety stuff that I always want to share, but I kind of feel weird like I have to balance it and not post too many sobriety-based things to not ostracize like my normal functioning adult audience, I guess. The people that follow me from the burlesque shows, my stand-up comedy or modeling stuff, but I still do want to share that stuff. So should you be interested in passages from books I'm currently reading, cheesy motivational stuff, inappropriate memes about hitting rock bottom, and maybe even Instagram stories of me being the only sober person at a random party, which happens often, then join me on Instagram at clownpod. That's clown, P-O-D, one word, no dashes. Speaking of clowns, my first guest of the season is a professional clown. Bobby Barnaby is the head of Fufu Ha Austin. Fufu Ha is a nationwide brand of clown tricksters. They're a glorious mix of clown meets drag, just coated in showgirl. Fufu Ha started in San Francisco 19 years ago by Mama Fu. Years later, one of their senior clowns moved to New York and started a branch there called Fu York. I love that. Another moved to Portland, started a group there, and last year, Bobby moved to Texas and started Fufu Ha Austin. On top of being a professional clown, Bobby is also an award-winning international burlesque performer. We talk about the art of clowning, escapism, sober drag queens, and the time he was almost eaten by a python. Seriously. I hope you like it. Here's me and Bobby Barnaby.
And when tomorrow comes around, I may be 6 feet underground, but I'll still have one more for now.
So I'm looking at a costume right now, and it's like crystals and lace and everything, and like very, very showgirl version of a clown.
Oh, yes. We believe the higher the hair, the closer to clown.
Oh, my God. Please tell me you're going to put that on a shirt.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Please do that.
We've got a new slogan that we're going to put on some shirts, too, called The Bevel Made Me Do It.
Oh, my God. Oh my God, I love this. I wish I was in Austin so I could join y'all. I love this so much. How many are in the Austin group now?
Oh, wow. We just actually had an audition and brought on a few more. We have round about 14.
Wow, okay. And you just started it in the Austin part of it.
A year ago.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Everyone in Austin is so busy. There's so many projects going on. And kind of the way Fu is, it's not super demanding. You don't have to be there all the time. This is your one life goal. We know that you're artists and that you're going to have a lot of things going on. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I have to have 14 to be able to get 6 at a time.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah.
Same with Fufu Ha San Francisco. Especially almost 20 years of history, there's lots of people that come in or out of the troupe. troupe. Whoever's there is who's getting the gigs type thing.
Got it.
And we're just a big family, and it's more about love and creating art together than rigorous rules and that kind of stuff.
Well, okay, so with that many of them, though, I have to ask, because you have some of the costumes here. Are you doing all these costumes, or do other people do the costumes with you?
No, I do not do. I do my own.
Okay, good. I was going to be like, don't do this to yourself.
No. I don't have that much time. Wrangling 12, 13 clowns is enough work. It's like herding cats into a can of worms, I say.
I'm sure,
but our rule is you can't do a gig until you make your own wig. So they have to make their own wig and their own costume. I am definitely there to help. We have crafting days on Sundays.
But that sounds self-filtering, though, because I'm sure a lot of people, I mean, I know with the showgirl stuff, because we have the showgirls in the show, they're like, oh my God, I want to be a showgirl. I'm like, okay, so we do this and this. That sounds very hard. And I'm like, well, if that sounds hard to you, then the actual work is not, you're not going to be able to do that.
Exactly. And so, I hired a lot of people knowing that some will not make it through the gauntlet of clown.
Yeah.
It just happens. People will fall off, and that's fine. And we still love them, and they're still in the Foo family. But, the diehard ones, you don't know until you find out, who's willing to put in the work. And then those are the people that are doing the gigs and doing the festivals and things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also saw that you're doing an open mic in Austin too.
Actually, yes. So in January, we started a show called The F Show. And it's Fire, Fun, and Follies on the first Friday of the month.
Shut up.
That's right.
Oh, God, I love that.
So I noticed moving to Austin about a year and a half ago, I noticed that most of the shows here, most of the burlesque shows are troupe-based shows. So for an independent artist, it's a little harder to get those guest spots. It's a very collaborative community, but at the same time, we're kind of all fighting for those same spots.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create a variety show. So we Foo is always there, and we have partnered with Pyrotex Fire Collective. Okay. So you're always going to see fire and clowns. But the rest of the guest spots are, I try to bring as much variety as possible. So it'll be burlesque, it'll be comedy, sideshow. This month we have an aerialist, we have a local comedian, and we have some fire.
Okay, so it's not like a show up, go up mic. Like you still have to, in advance, like talk to you and set it all up.
So we have 2 shows per night.
Oh, okay.
There's a main stage show where we hire local entertainers that are established. And then also in addition to that, I wanted to create an incubation space. Coming from San Francisco, I've noticed that is lacking here as well. And I think that's super important to budding artists to have a space to try things out. So they're not just doing it in their living room, but they're doing it in front of live people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we have an open stage show. I also wanted to get rid of the mic part of it. You don't have to have a mic to come to our show.
Yeah.
If you want to do a dance piece or a new burlesque piece or I always joke and tell the audience, if you want to come up on stage and eat grapes for 5 minutes, we will watch you do that. Whatever you want to do, we will watch you do, as long as there's no bodily fluids or snakes.
Oh,
those are my rules.
God, do you just have a thing against snakes?
I am
because I know a bunch of girls that dance with snakes.
I'm deathly afraid of snakes. I love all animals, but I had a near-death experience as a child, and Are
you serious?
I did.
How did you have a near-death experience with a snake?
When I was a child, there was a show across the street from my school in the amphitheater park called Oohs, Ahs, and Giggles. And it was a different show every month.
I love everything that you say. I just have to tell you that right now.
I have a colorful life, I will tell you.
Yes.
So we went to this show, my older sister and I was in first grade, I think, and I was a very, very small little child, very short, very tiny. And after the show, so this month of the show, it was belly dancers with snakes. After the show, you could go around the back of the stage and have the snake put on you.
Yeah,
to take
for
a
picture.
Photo, So we went around the back and they put the tail end of the snake on me. This was a 30-foot python.
Oh, okay.
And it just Mowgli'd me right up. It literally encircled me from toe to tip.
Oh my God.
It thought it was having a snack.
Shut up.
And I couldn't breathe. And with every breath out, it collapsed my lungs more. And the men started, there was this big frenzy. They picked up my feet and they were yanking me away from the snake. And then finally they were able to uncoil it onto somebody else's arm. And we didn't have any parental supervision. It was the early 90s, and they just patted us on the head and said, "Have a good day, kids. Go home." And we just walked home.
Oh my
And that
God.
was that.
You're not dead. Be happy.
Yes, exactly. So I love all animals, but I just have this it's this
that makes sense.
built-in fear that I can't control.
Oh my God.
So I'm trying to work on it. I watch nature programs.
Well, it's okay to not work on that. You have a reason. Like, it's not like an unjustified fear for you specifically.
It's just one of my only like fears that, like, when I see them, it grips me and I can feel it in my chest. And like, I want, through sobriety, I have decided to walk towards my fears, because I think of fears as like a stretched cord between you and the fear. And if you walk towards the fear, there's slack in the line, and it releases all the tension. So I'm trying. I did challenge myself, and I did touch a snake at Coney Island. That's as far as I've gotten. With that.
But good for you that you're even working on it. Yeah. So yours is justified because you almost died, and that's reasonable. I have, for my whole life, had a fear of cockroaches. By the way, do y'all have the big ones in San Francisco that we have here?
Oh God, no.
Okay, I didn't think so. 'Cause I know a lot of people will come down from up north and are like, no, absolutely not. These monsters don't exist anywhere but here.
That is true.
I lived in Florida and they were everywhere, and they called them something else. They gave them a cute name, and I was like, no, like they're fucking cockroaches. They're not. Oh God, what were they? Something bugs. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I've had a fear of them since I was little. But like a shrieking, I can't, like one time there was one outside my apartment door. So I just didn't go home that night. Like I was throwing rocks at it. It didn't run away. So I just had to go stay at my girlfriend's house because I just couldn't.
When I first moved here last year, I was in or a year and a half ago, it was in the summer, and I was coming home from a gig, and I was in full drag, and one chased me around the parking lot. And it just kept coming for me.
While you're in drag.
I was in full drag, screaming in the middle of the night.
Like that's a movie.
It was. I'm sure somebody saw it and was like, put that on Instagram.
Oh my God. Well, so like even if they were dead, like it would be a thing. I'd put like a bowl or newspaper, I'd throw stuff on them, wait till someone visited me and be like, hey, can you take care of that for me? I would love to say that through sobriety, I worked through it. That did not happen. But separately, I had a surgery last year. I had not pre-cancer, but like the step right before that.
Right.
And so it was, a whole mind fuck and mortality and all this stuff. And I'd never gone under. And so it was a lot. It was a lot going on. I didn't know what was going to happen in my career because I'm like, oh, are they taking my whole tit away? Like, it was a lot to handle. And now thankfully everything's fine. But the day after that just felt like super zen because it was like, well, this is yet another thing I got through.
Yeah.
And there was just a lot of peace and like, the whole this too shall pass. Terrible things keep happening.
Right.
They're not going to stop, I don't think, ever. No. But just the fear has just dissipated through that.
Yeah.
And so like 2 days after I saw one and it was just almost like dead eye. I just stared at it. I just went over and smacked it with a broom and scooped it up.
Yeah.
Cause I'm just like, there's nothing else to be afraid of at this point.
No.
And it was really weird to explain. Cause I'm like, yeah, I'm super zen, but I'm killing things. But in like a very zen way.
He zenfully killed that fucker. Yeah. I like to think of things as, the worst thing that has ever happened to you is only the worst thing until the next worst thing. Mm-hmm. And if you got through the last worst thing, then you can always get through the next worst thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's much more positive, I think. I'm more of like, fucking bring it on. So how long ago did you stop drinking?
Well, I stopped drinking. This July will be 4 years.
Oh,
for
congratulations.
Me. Uh-huh. I did do for 18 months what they call the marijuana maintenance program. Mm-hmm. And then April 1st, I went clean and sober.
April 1st this year. Oh, no, April 1st then.
So I have 2 years, just over 2 years, clean and sober.
Got it. Okay.
I chose April 1st because that is actually my personal New Year. Mm-hmm. Being a performer, we don't really get to celebrate New Year's because we're usually working.
Yeah.
And it's all about booze usually too. So April 1st presented itself to me. Monumental things happen on April 1st for several years, and then I kind of caught on. So the first show that I ever produced solo was on April 1st. The next year, I submitted my application to Clown College on April 1st. The following year, I graduated clown school, and I also moved out of my home of 10 years and ended my marriage on April 1st.
Oh, wow.
And this year, I get to celebrate 2 years clean and sober and the success of my new show.
Oh,
So,
my God.
April 1st is a very big day for me. And being a clown, I think it's very fitting.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, because I know each other like performer socially from Facebook, but like this is our first sit down.
Yeah.
And everything you've said, I'm like, oh my God, we're so connected. That is my birthday.
It's your birthday.
Yeah. So I'm just like, oh, so this is just meant to be.
Yes, it's both of our new year.
Yeah. No, I love that so much. Just like the symbolism and like the power in those things and what they mean to you, because I know that feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's really important to make your own way through life and not feel that you have to follow the status quo. Because I felt that for so long. And I felt so, what my sponsor calls, not good enough itis. I felt that my whole life. And then, I recently started driving Lyft, and sometimes I'll talk about, things, and things in my life are kind of like, especially here in Texas, I run an all showgirl drag clown troupe. That's quite a thing. I'm a stripper that has, stripped coast to coast in the United States and Canada and all over Europe. And that's not an acceptable thing in some places in Texas. But, depending on the fair, I will share part of my life with them. And this one guy said, "You're so cool." And I just...
I mean, it's true.
I just felt like, I waited so long to hear that when I was a kid, and I never thought I was going to hear that. Not that it's important what other people think about you, but just that I've made my own way and not followed what I thought I had to follow, and that I'm actually, very happy for that.
Yeah, good. That makes me happy. I feel like with artists, that's a really common thread, is that like people feel, as the outsider and the approval seeking, but I don't really want it because and like the whole back and forth that you do, because tend to be sensitive and you're drawn to that. And so you kind of do the fuck it, make your own path. But we find people and there becomes like, well, you meet the other strippers or the other clowns or the other artists, and then you kind of get sucked into perhaps negative habits because you then want to be accepted by those things.
Right. It's that you have to fit into this new outcast crew.
Exactly. You're trying to fit into the outcast.
Am I outcast enough?
Exactly. You have to be a rebel. And so that's like the constant struggle, is finding the actual your own path versus thinking you're on your own path.
Right. Exactly. Where do I fit in? I don't fit in. Then how do I fit in with not fitting in?
Okay. Stripping coast to coast.
Yeah.
Was this pre or post sobriety?
A pre-sobriety.
Okay.
I actually, 420 was my 11-year anniversary in burlesque.
Oh my God.
Yes.
You love dates.
I do love dates.
Like dates.
I'm very Virgo. I love dates and order and spreadsheets for sure.
I love spreadsheets.
I love spreadsheets.
I saw this comedian, Dusty Rhodes. She posted this thing of lady in the streets and Excel in the sheets.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, please, dear God, make that
T-shirt.
a shirt or a sticker. Like, I need that on everything that I own.
We need to start a t-shirt business.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have lots of catchphrases. Okay, so 11 years.
So 11 years in burlesque. I've done a lot of musical theater in my life. I started dancing competitively when I was 10 years old. So that's now been 25 years of dance. And so I did a lot of musical theater. I was in a production of Cabaret, and one of the performers was having a party. He invited me to the party, and there was this little competition at the party. And I was like, well, I'm going to win that.
Of course.
So I tap danced and I sang and I won the competition. It's a silly little fun thing, but it was very fun. And there were some boys there, and they said, "Oh, we're part of this troupe. You should come to a rehearsal and check it out." And I was like, "Oh, well, I've never been invited to be a part of anything in my life, so I think I'm going to take them up on that." I showed up, and we just started working on this number. I had no idea what it was for or what we were doing, but I just kept showing up. And then before I knew it, I was making my burlesque debut at Bimbo's 365 in San Francisco for Teasorama, the original burlesque festival in 2008. And I was in this dressing room with Dirty Martini and Catherine Delish and Cirque du Soleil, and I had no idea who any of them were.
Oh my God.
And we were watching from backstage, getting ready for our number, and I'm just peering through these curtains being like, is this a dream? Like, this is the little child inside of me has finally arrived where they belong. And I don't even know what's happening right now. Our number was we were hobos with kit bags, and we had a live chicken in our act.
Oh my God.
And that's how I made my burlesque debut on one of the world's largest stages at that time for burlesque. And I just kept dancing. That was the troupe was called SF Boylesque. We were known as the Bohemian Brethren, and we were the first all-male neo-burlesque troupe in the country. They started in 2006. I joined them in 2008. I danced with them for 5 years, and the show kind of ended. And then I just kept going. I wanted to do solo stuff, and so I started applying to festivals solo. I've now performed in over 35 burlesque festivals.
Wow.
I've stripped in 15 U.S. cities. I've stripped coast to coast in Canada, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, 13 other countries in Europe and
that's
whatnot.
amazing.
Yeah. And I'm actually the current reigning king of Texas Burlesque Festival and the Amsterdam Burlesque Festival.
Oh, I love that dichotomy.
Yeah, right?
King of Texas and Amsterdam.
Yeah, why not?
Oh my God. That is amazing.
It's been really a wild ride, and I didn't choose it. This life chose me. I got plucked out of it, and they said, this is, the universe, my higher power, the divine decided this is where you belong. Little boy who's lost, come here. And that's where I ended up. And burlesque has been my life, my godsend, my family. I found my family here.
Yeah.
I believe very much so in chosen family. And, I am very honored to be in the House of Famous. I was adopted by world famous Bob, who is my drag mother.
I love her.
And, my siblings, Kitty Von Quim and Show My More and Louisiana Purchase and Precious Ephemera and Matt Knife. We're just like, we're a family. We're really, really a family. I was talking to Precious on the phone last night till 2 a.m. in my car and driving Bob home, and it's really amazing to find your family when you feel like you don't necessarily have one.
Yeah. Did you move to Austin on Bob's suggestion? Because she moved here first, right? Or was that just random and you're like, oh my God, I have to go?
Well, so Kitty Von Quim, my best friend, and my sister, we met each other in San Francisco and lived there, performed all over the place together. And then she and her wife decided to move to Austin. I came out to visit. I had a 1-month break off from clown school, and I came for the whole month. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I like it. And then I actually ended up coming back in April for the Texas Burlesque Festival of that year. So that was in April, just a week after I had ended my marriage and moved out of my home. And we were laying by the pool, eating snacks, dancing. And I wasn't really happy with my living situation that I had moved out. And I just thought to myself, I don't know where you belong in the world right now, but I think you belong here with your family. Yeah. And so I decided to just come and move here and try things out.
Good. I'm so glad that you had that. That's a hard time.
It is.
I've not been divorced, but I was engaged and that broke up, and that was, you have these ideas of what your life is going to be or what your world is, and when that's taken away, it's jarring.
It is.
And it's easy to spiral.
Yeah, and I had just gotten sober recently before that, and I feel that I say that getting sober for me was like waking up at your first sleepover ever. And I woke up in that bed with my husband, and I was like, where the fuck am I? And who the fuck are you? And I didn't know who I was. I didn't know why I was where I was. Yeah. I didn't know any of those things. And all of this life that I had set up didn't feel right. And it was kind of like that realization that you've known it for a really long time and you just weren't able to accept it. So you just kept getting drunk.
Yeah, you lied to yourself for a real long time.
I did. And so, I thought, well, I'm a brand new person. I'm a brand new clown out of school. And I need to go out and find my brand new life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, this is why I like doing the podcast, because I like to talk to people who can understand that, because it's so hard to explain if you've not experienced it. The best way I can say it's like, it felt like reality was like rushing at me. And in a year, I grew up, for lack of a better word. Like I made up for 15 years of like not developing as a person. And I
Absolutely.
had no idea how emotionally and mentally stunted I was, where I was like, oh, I'm learning things that, I don't want to say the word normal, but
Right.
a non-alcoholic, these lessons, life lessons that they would have learned at like 16 and 18 and 20. And like, I am in my 30s and was just like, oh, this is what being sad is. Okay. Like, it's just like, I'm just learning how to process what feeling is.
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
so intense where you're just like, this is why I was running away. This shit is hard.
This shit is
How are
hard.
you walking through the world like this?
Absolutely. It's funny that, in meetings, they say that, our stories are unique, but the human experience is not unique. And that is something that I really realized through sobriety, is that we're all the same. We all have the same general fears. We all go through things the same. And I don't know about you, but I was a chronic user from the age of 13 until my 30s. And, a lot of psychologists say that when you use any substance chronically, that your brain stops developing at the age that you started that use. And then when you stop using, your brain continues to develop. So a lot of us come out of these 15-year stupors and we're teenagers and we don't know how to deal with feelings, and we don't know how to sit with feelings. I never sat with a feeling and felt it in its original form ever. I was always either making it bigger or making it smaller.
Yeah.
Make my happiness bigger or make my sadness smaller. And a lot of people say you don't have to feel happy to be happy.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. I always had to feel happy or I was going to feel sad.
So you just like, I did not know what you just said. That's the thing that psychologists say. Like, that's where you stop basically progressing.
Yep.
I've always tried to explain it in my not scientific terms of like how I've tried to process this. I did not know that. That makes complete sense to me.
It really does. And exactly what you were saying, right when I got about maybe between 6 to 9 months sober, I started feeling. And it's hard to explain that, but I didn't feel things like, and you,
like you thought you did.
I thought
At least I thought like, I was like, yeah, of course. I'm always happy. I'm the life of the
experiencing
party.
life.
Everything's so much fun. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No. I have no
You
idea.
start feeling for the first time and it's a fucking doozy.
Yeah.
And, I try to be very rational, rationalize my feelings. And it was very, very confusing and hard for me when I made peace with something in my mind, why my body and soul and heart wouldn't stop feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're good now. Let's move
stop
on. Let's move on. Get some ice cream and let's go.
I actually, so I listened to Oprah, Super Soul Conversations, and she was talking to, I'm going to say his name wrong, but Eckhart Tolle.
Yes.
It was really like something that's been repeating because I just recently heard it, was that if you don't fully process a fear or just a negative emotion, basically fear, sadness, whatever, you carry that with you forever until something triggers you a day later, a week later, a year later, whatever it is. And you have that just remembering that thing, and you can try to process it then or smash it back down, and it's going to come back a year later, and that you have to fully process those feelings or you're carrying it with you forever. And I was like, fuck.
Yes, I feel that majorly right now. I've just actually gone through my 4th step for the first time because in true rebel outsider fashion. I did not have a sponsor for the first 3 years of my sobriety, 2 or 3 years, which I do not recommend. You know, I was like, I'm doing this my way.
Oh no.
I recommend having a sponsor and working the steps. It's for a reason. And at the same time, it is your program and you get to decide what you do. But going through that fourth step, and if you're unfamiliar, you're going through every single reason why you drank, basically. And all of those feelings that you didn't feel completely, you fucking feel them in 1 week's time. You know, all of them. And you break those down to where those fears came from, you know, like all of your resentments, basically. So I said reasons why you drink, but it's mainly about resentments and anger, which for me is why I drank. And breaking down those resentments to fears and where those fears come from and what's behind those fears and what's behind those fears and what's behind those fears. And feeling them and really doing it all at once is super painful and hard and requires a lot of bubble baths, but it's so freeing. It's so freeing to get a little bit of peace, and like maybe you might have to circle around and do it again. You know, but it's really an amazing process.
Okay, so here's the thing. I like going to meetings. I love hearing people's stories, and that's like where I feel like the least lonely. Basically, I'm like the connection.
Absolutely.
I honestly never talk to anybody after them or anything. I see people like go and have coffee together and talk, and I'm like, no, gotta go. I'm like, I got my connection. I gotta go. But I will go 3 or 6 or 8 months. And basically it's only when I'm like, feel myself spiraling out and just like not taking care of myself. And it's not, I don't usually get like an itch to like start drinking again. It's not even that anymore. It's just, I just get really depressed and dark and overwhelmed and lonely and all these other negative things that pile up. And then I go and I'm like, oh, everything's fixed. And then I don't go back.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So it's just actually a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was like, I'm going every week now. I'm going because this is better. I know this is good for me. So yeah, I'm like 3 years in. I'm like, okay, now I'm actually going to work the program versus visiting and then running away. Yeah. So I am just starting that. I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe this is why you're supposed to have a sponsor. So I have the big book. Yeah. I'm reading it. Yeah. But I always hear people talk about like, well, you got to work the steps. And I'm like, okay, I'm reading it. But like when I would first go to meetings, there's never like a welcome packet, like saying like, here's how you do this thing. So people go and they talk and then you walk away. And I'm like, what? The book, there's not like, I thought there was going to be like a worksheet or something in it. I'm reading, I'm doing it in my head. Yeah. What are you supposed to do is what I'm asking you.
Your sponsor is your guide. Your sponsor is your welcome
person.
Their sponsor. It's a trickle-down effect. So my sponsor has a sponsor, and her sponsor has a sponsor. And it's a trickle-down.
It's a pyramid scheme.
It's a pyramid scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme. No, it's not. That's terrible.
It's not.
So the 12th step is, to
the service, right?
Service and trying to, help the next alcoholic. It is a trickle down effect. And so my sponsor is helping me in the way that her sponsor helped her. So every sponsorship is different, and you're going to work the steps differently. I do have a workbook that we use that has worksheets in it. Okay. And it's very Virgo, and it's very like, this week you're reading this page to this page. Okay. And then we're going to talk about that page to that page. And here's your activity that we're going to do to help you work through this part of the book and part of the steps. Everybody does it differently though. So it's about finding the right person And, I just didn't think that I was going to be able to find the right person. I thought, I'm a performer. I like to travel. They're not going to be okay with me missing a week. They're not going to get me, man. They're not going to realize that, I got other priorities and things like that.
Yeah.
But my sponsor found me. My divine intervention sent me a person. They were a friend of a friend that needed a place to stay. And so I hosted them, and she latched on, and I flew away with her. And we actually, it's unconventional. She lives in LA.
Oh, wow.
And we meet over Skype once a week for 2 hours. So it doesn't have to be conventional at all. But yeah, just reading the big book is not working the steps, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You get points for reading the big book, but you're not working the steps quite yet. It really does take somebody else to explain what's going on, explain what you're supposed to do, and help you take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Because just reading through it, you're missing all the little pieces of gold that are sprinkled in there. And also to have someone help you, that book was written in the 1930s.
Yeah.
It's very outdated.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there are reasons why it hasn't been updated. And I after a while, you get over that.
Yeah.
You get over the archaic language, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to take it for what it is. And I'm going to take my piece and kind of dismiss the parts that don't resonate with me, or that I feel are a little misogynistic or what have you.
Yeah. I got like 3 pages into the being the wife of the alcoholic, and then I had to skip through. I was like, I can't. There's 20 more pages about dealing with him.
I remember reading that chapter in a meeting, and I was newer in my sobriety, and I was just like, fuck this. Fuck this. And I would also be that person in meetings that would change all of the he and the God to she, or they, or change the language a little bit. And then I realized, that's not the point. You're missing the point, and you're getting hung up on the wrong thing, and you're just finding something to be angry about.
Yeah, to not absorb it all.
And I would do the same thing. When I first went to meetings, okay, this was my situation. I have crippling anxiety, especially social anxiety. And I was so scared to be in those rooms, and so nervous that I would have to get high to go to an AA meeting. I would have to get loaded just to be able to sit there for an hour and not run out of the room.
Oh my God, that's the best.
But you know what?
I understand it though, because it took me for so many people, not so many, the people I did talk to were like, yeah, there's meetings everywhere, just go. And I would drive, sit in the parking lot, and then leave. Because I'm like, oh, I'm just going to walk into a room with people I don't know? That's crazy.
I would use every excuse to oh, I'm late. That's rude. I shouldn't go.
Last week, I was so proud of myself because I was having that same feeling. And I was like, I told myself I was going to go. I'm like, by the time I get there, it's already going to be 5 minutes in. I'm going to be that rude. And I was like, no, just go.
You still get 55 minutes of sanity.
I forced myself to go. And like always, I felt better afterwards.
I don't think anybody walks out of a meeting and is like, I feel worse. I don't think that happens. I think that it's I feel, you can feel for sure. It can bring up a lot of feelings. But, I used to sit there and just wait for the serenity prayer. And then I would bolt. I'd be like, don't talk to me, please. I can't handle that. Don't give me your phone number. I won't use it. And I used to have this thing too, people would say, I'm Billy and I'm a grateful alcoholic. And on my head, I would go, well, fuck you, Billy.
I have not heard that. And a lot of people glad I didn't.
Like to say I'm a grateful alcoholic. And it used to drive me crazy. And I was like, well, I'm here just to try to stay alive for 1 more hour, Billy. So I'm glad that you're fucking grateful. And now I too am a grateful alcoholic. You do turn the corner on that. I also say to my sponsor sometimes, because I like to isolate and because I have so much anxiety, I wish I could just watch a meeting on television. If they had meetings on Netflix, I would be so healed right now. And that's not the truth. There's a visceral experience that you get when you resonate with someone else's story, and if you have the goal to share some of your own story as well.
Yeah.
You always feel better. You always feel a little bit lighter than when you walked in the room for some reason, and it's hard to get there. Sometimes I go a while, but luckily I have my own personal meeting with my sponsor every
so
week.
you're covered.
So I get to, and that doesn't replace meetings, but it is a good way. And also, I think I heard you mention in another podcast that you go to meetings in other cities, which I also do. And that's so great. I've been to meetings on cruise ships.
Oh.
I've been to meetings in Europe in languages that I didn't speak. I've created meetings at burlesque festivals, just like Que Sera does, and those are some of the best meetings ever.
That was part of the issue. That's why I'm forcing myself. I'm like, okay, I think I finally found a home group. It's only been a couple of weeks. We'll see. But like, I associated meetings with vacation/work.
Right.
And so it was part of like the self-care of like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to go to the beach and I'm going to go to the meeting. So then when I was home, I was like, I don't have time for that right now. And so cause I always will put myself on the back because I have so much to do. And I'm telling myself I'm too busy for that. And so I could not get myself to go to one in Houston. And then this last year, I actually traveled very little because I was dealing with all the hospital stuff. And it was so much. So I was like, well, I guess I don't get to go to meetings. And there's always an excuse.
Right. There always will be an excuse.
And I like a lot of the overachiever in me, the codependent overachiever in me was like, well, yeah, no, that's why it's like, I just need to get like a book and I'll just work through it myself and I don't need anybody. And then when I found out the 12th step was service to others, and I was like, well, that's what the fucking podcast is. I'm done. I did all the steps. I'm helping people with the podcast.
Tick those boxes, baby. Why am I not healed?
I'm fixed. All right. I'm fixed. This is other sad that I have now.
I think that there's a mentality sometimes that meetings are rescue devices, and absolutely they can be. Like when I first got sober, I went to every kind of meeting. In San Francisco, there is over 200 meetings a day.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
And I went, I didn't care what kind of meeting it was. There's this amazing website called The Next 20 Meetings in San Francisco, and it just serves you the next 20 meetings at any given moment.
Oh, wow.
Throughout the city. And I would just go. I mean, I've been to every type of 12-step program that there is, I think. I've been to OA, Overeaters Anonymous. I've been to the NA meetings. I've been to, all of them, the CMA meetings, the crystal meth meetings, all of those things. And it's all the same program pretty much. But I didn't care what it was. I just I need a rescue right now. I need to be sitting in a meeting so that I'm not sitting in a bar.
Yeah.
And I would go. And so I didn't really have a home meeting either. And then when I found a home meeting, I realized, oh, this is not only a rescue device, but this is
maintenance.
It's maintenance. It's constant maintenance that you're doing, and not only maintenance, but progressive. You're doing forward thinking work, not just fixing what's going on right now. And then you'll hear the story of that 70-year-old white man that has not lived your life at all.
And he'll still relate.
He'll say something from your story, and I've been to meetings in the Tenderloin in San Francisco where people are using drugs outside, shooting up, and then walking into the meeting to get their slip signed,
Oh, wow.
And those people will sit down and they will say something that you're like, yeah, that's my story too. Like I was saying, the human experience is not unique. We all have something that is, relatable.
Yeah. Well, I think now, like I said, I just like meetings in general now, but you're talking about the whole fuck you, grateful alcoholic, bitter me.
Right.
I would just I couldn't absorb anything because I could just look at them and dismiss it and be like, you don't understand.
I also, I have an aversion to what they call young people's meetings.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, because I actually resonate with older people. I feel more safe I feel like, oh, they're young people. They're going to fucking judge me. It'll be just like high school. It'll be terrible. They're all covered in tattoos, just like me. And they're all
so cool.
They think they're so cool. And I'm not going to be cool enough for them. I'm not going to be hard enough. My addiction isn't going to be bad enough that it's not going to be valid for them. So I do have an aversion to those. I like queer meetings. I'm a queer person and it makes me feel safe to be in a room with other queers and allies. That's what makes me feel the most safe.
Yeah.
Especially here in Texas.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of being judged. I have a fear of that. And I that's just where I feel the safest. And the beauty of a home meeting is that those people get to know you, whether you like it or not. When you speak, they remember things about you because they feel the same way as you.
And that was the thing at this one. A couple of times she called on people by their name when they were kind of nodding to share. And I was like, they know each other here. And like, that was so, because again, I go like very vacation-y places, not vacation, but just different cities. So it was like a different, like, okay, this is, I can meet people here. Like, I had that safe feeling.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to come back here. And it felt, just hearing her call their names, I'm like, this is different.
It is different. And also, get that phone list, girl. Get that phone list. Every meeting has a phone list. Every meeting has a phone list.
Okay.
To call on people for support. You know what I mean? And you will get that phone list and you'll put it somewhere. I put the phone list in my travel bag, actually. It lives in my suitcase so that when I am on vacation or traveling, I know that I can call Tina or Lucy or whoever. There becomes a time where you will be healthfully addicted to meetings and the honesty that happens there.
Yeah.
And you go outside and you're like, this is all fake. Like, you don't care how I am. You just ask me how I am and you don't care how I am.
Yeah.
But inside of a meeting, someone asks you how you are and you know that they really are asking because they want to know that you're okay.
Yeah.
Because they know that at times they're not okay. And it can be really just an amazing, safe place.
Yeah. Last time I was in Austin, I was talking to John Rayburn, and he was talking about how post-rehab, that was something that him and like other people have had issues with, where like you got so used to like extreme honesty.
Yes.
And when you're doing especially the live-in rehabs, just all day, every day, and then they release you out into the world and you're just used to speaking with no filter. The looks you get back were like, they're not prepared for an honest answer to how are you doing?
Right. And it's kind of interesting that I got sober right after I started clowning. And clowning really helped me through my tough time of getting sober. And the thing about clowning is that it is rigorous honesty as well. And there's so much fear in the world too. Like, there's so many rules. Like, you can't dress a certain way. You can't be rude, especially here in the South. You have to be polite all the time. You have to be okay. You have to be fine when someone asks how you are. You can't honk your horn, for God's sake. All these things that are like, that you are conditioned as a human being, that this is how you act as a human being. And if you act a different way, you're breaking the social contract that we've made, that you have to sign whether you like it or not. And clowning is the opposite of that. There are no rules in clowning. You get to break all the rules.
Yeah.
And also you get to hold a mirror up to society and say, look at all those stupid rules that you made that I don't have to follow. Aren't you jealous of me? And that's what I love about clowning and AA and how they're similar, is that there is rigorous honesty that the rest of the world is not ready for. And that is a beautiful thing, that we can live as examples to how that can be influential in your life.
My story is very opposite. When I was clowning, like just getting into that, and especially being the burlesque clown, I got a free pass, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you can go around. I was stealing people's drinks, and I've just like poked them in the stomach afterwards. It was fine. And I could get away with anything because I was dressed like a clown. And I'm not being rude. I'm being really funny. And I could talk shit to your face. And like I said, dancing on bars, taking off clothes, everything was acceptable.
Yeah.
So I took that to the most extreme level of like, well, then I'm going to get fucked up and I'm going to do every drug. I can do all this stuff and nobody's judging me because I'm just being a clown.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to abuse power, isn't it?
Oh, no.
With great power comes great responsibility. With great clowning comes great responsibility, right?
Yes. I am a good clown now. What made you stop drinking? Did you have a rock bottom or what was going on?
You know, I did have a rock bottom and I somehow survived it and stayed alive. I got to a point where I would wake up in the morning and I would pour myself a tumbler of vodka and I would either drink the whole thing and pour a second one or just nurse that one while I got ready, just depending on the day. And then I would fill my flask and I would go to work and I would drink from my flask in the broom closet at work. I was working on Pier 39, the number 3 tourist attraction in the United States, which is hell to work at.
I'm sure. Yeah. You're surrounded by children and families and tourists. And
and I was working at Bubba Gump Shrimp Company where you have to be gumpy every day.
Oh my God.
So, you know, I would get off work and I would drink my allotted 2 beers at work. You can only drink 2 beers at work. And then I would go down to the other end of the pier. And I was actually also doing a musical on Pier 39. So I was spending about 6 days a week, 14 hours a day on Pier 39.
I have to tell you really quick. So post probation, that was my thing where I was like, when I could finally leave Houston, I love California, specifically like the Coast Highway. So I was like, once I could leave, I was like, fuck you, I'm getting out. I drove out there, visited a friend in LA, drove the coast, listened to Led Zeppelin and cried like on the fucking cliffs, you know, trying to figure out my life. And then went up to San Francisco to visit a friend and ended up, because I'd never seen Pier 39. And so I was like eating at, I don't even know what restaurant. I'm going to say Bubba Gump Shrimp for the sake of the story. But I was eating at some restaurant and like staring, like, because you could see Alcatraz from there. And I was like, this is symbolism. Like, look at me staring at that jail, free, having my martini.
Bring on the clam chowder.
Yeah, you can't stop me now.
Ooh, yeah.
And I drank my martinis and got back in the car and kept driving around. So
of course you did.
It's what I did.
Yeah, I also, you know, I would get high with my friends. I would do my show. We would go across to the cheaper bars, and I would drink all my giant male friends under the table because I had been drinking all day and I was just sustaining, and they were getting drunk fast and falling off. And I was like, come on, keep up, boys. And, you know, and then I would drive home. I was driving to and from work every day drunk. That was a terrible time. And I had one of those times where after that time period that was really bad, you know, like I cut back a little bit, you know, and then years later, fast forward, I found myself kind of in the same situation, losing a partner, I saw my history and I saw myself in the same situation, and I saw that full circle coming, and I saw what I was capable of, and surprised that I avoided that lightning strike the first time. I didn't kill myself or anybody else. And I said to myself, that probably won't happen twice. You're probably not going to make it through a second time, you know? And I was talking to a friend at work. I was a bartender as well. And I was talking to a friend at work and I was telling her about this, you know, and I was like, you know, but I'm okay right now. Yes, my drinking is out of control right now, but I know that it's out of control. So at least I'm aware of that. I said to her, if it gets really bad, I know a sober performing bartender that's kind of in the same position as me that I could reach out to if it gets bad. And she looked at me and this was the life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, why are you going to wait for it to get bad, honey? And it was like, whoa, wow. You're right. I can be proactive about this. So I got off work and I called that person that I had made mention of, and they told me about the Next 20 Meetings website. And I went to a meeting that day, and I have not had a drink since that day.
You played the tape before you knew what played the tape was.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I did. And I feel really lucky to have that person in my life, Miss B. We love Miss B. It just like something clicked, just like I was listening to some of your other podcasts, and there's a moment for people sometimes where something clicks, and I wasn't in rock bottom, but I was at a point where I was afraid of myself and what I was capable of. Yeah. And I had never been in a place where I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of everything else in my life, but not of myself and the destructive behavior that I knew I was capable of.
Yeah.
And that was it for me.
Wow. I think that's so interesting that you were, even in that space, capable of seeing that and hearing that, because I feel like you could have just as easily, when she said that, of rolled your eyes, because we're in that state, rolled your eyes and been like, oh, she just doesn't understand, or she doesn't get you, or whatever. So that hit you like you needed. That's exactly the thing you needed to hear at that time.
And I really believe in divine timing. And, we can play these games once we get sober of like, oh my God, I wasted so much time being drunk, or I wasted so much of my life. I wasted so much of my youth. I wasted time being in dead end relationships. I wasn't following my dreams. And it's really easy to say all that, but I think everything happens for a reason at the right time when you're ready to receive that information. And you know what? Maybe somebody said that to me 50 times. Yeah. And it was that time at that moment where I heard it. I was able to hear it for some reason, and it clicked. Being in the program and having friends or acquaintances or other, meeting buddies that are going through it, or relapse, or, you see your friend that is a obvious suffering alcoholic, and they're not willing to, they say, oh, I'm an alcoholic in jest, like I used to do. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm professional,
Oh my God. I just got a Facebook memory thing that was like me joking and was like, is a functioning alcoholic a compliment? Ha ha ha.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh God.
Making light of those things, but you can't help those people. You can't make those people get sober. You can offer support. You can be there. You can offer advice. You can say, hey, I'm going to a meeting. Would you like to come with me? But you can't make that person get sober.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And no one could have made me get sober until I was ready to hear that bit of knowledge.
Are there a lot of sober performers in San Francisco? Like, did you find it difficult performing afterwards? Because that's a huge change.
There are actually a lot of sober performers in San Francisco, especially in the drag scene.
Oh, okay.
Because the drag scene is very old. There's some old queens there. There are some queens, some amazing queens that I'm lucky enough to call friends that have been sober for 20 years plus. What's funny is that, I had heard, or I had a home meeting in San Francisco, and there was somebody that came up to me and said, oh, you're a performer. I'm not, but I go to a meeting on Saturday at noon that there's a lot of performers there, this person, this person, this person. And I said, oh, great. Thanks for letting me know. I'm never going to go to that.
Wait, they named the people?
They did name the people.
Oh my God.
Because I don't think it was a breach of, I knew these people were sober.
Yeah.
They knew these people were sober. We were in a safe space. They may have outed them a little bit, but I think it was with good intentions.
Yeah, of course.
And not to somebody outside the program. So, I hear you. But I avoided those meetings like the plague, because I didn't want to talk to people I knew. I wanted this like perfect safe space where I could not answer the phone if that person called me. But if I saw someone out at a show, I can't avoid them.
Yeah.
Also, if I slipped up and started drinking at a show, I didn't want those other performer eyes on me. I was afraid. And now it's like the Behoff Bill meeting, which is the meeting at the Burlesque Hall of Fame, is my favorite meeting in the world. Because, it's funny how we turn these corners, because I know that those people know exactly what I'm going through today. Yeah. They're also at this event that is a drinking marathon.
Yeah, it's in a casino.
For 4 days.
Vegas. It's 24 hours. Yeah.
And also, the amazing group on Facebook that we have of sober burlesque performers, it is a little outing. You out yourself in a very public way.
I have deleted posts before. Like I've like emotionally posted and then like an hour later deleted it because I'm like, no, they're going to screen cap it. They're going to share it. And I'm like, that is silly. That's not what this is for. But it's just, it's that fear.
Yeah,
but I'm like, that's not what this is for. They understand.
But what it has done for me is it has outed those people as allies for me. Because like, even if I never talk to that person in a meeting, or if I don't go to a meeting with that person, I can look across the room and say, that person is my ally. And if I need to right now, I could just go stand next to them and they're going to know why I'm standing there. Yeah. And they're going to be like, you got this, girl. Yeah. You're going to be fine. Would you like a soda water? And so to have those instant allies was just amazing. But, a lot of sober performers in San Francisco, and after a while, it became a support network. And it turned out that the owner of the bar that I was working for was actually a sober queen as well.
Oh, really?
So it was nice to be able to have that support.
Good. I'm glad you had that. I'm always interested in different places, and obviously people's experiences in general, but different places, because Texas is a very beer heavy drinking, like, at least, I know Austin's a party city.
Oh yeah.
Houston's a party city. And so, so I wonder about different cities and how common it is. I do feel like though in Austin, like I'm meeting more and more people and I'm like, okay, there's a lot more here than I thought were here.
Yeah. It's fun to find people by happenstance too, You're like, oh wait, you don't drink? Are you just today? Just this week? Are you going on a cleanse, girl? Like what's, like trying to not out yourself, but trying to out yourself at the same time and find an ally. I think that's really, really fun. And I feel that sometimes people get to a point where they are really open about their sobriety. And I hid it for a long time at first.
Yeah, of course. One, I don't want to be accountable if I stop. Yeah. But two, I didn't know how to be open. And at the time, I argued that it was me just being myself. And like, I don't want to be sober KiKi. I just want to be KiKi. And it's better this way. And now I'm like, okay, no, I was just terrified of people knowing me and me being caught if I drink again. Yeah. And so now I'm like, I don't give a shit. Yeah. I want to tell people to connect.
I always have those, my go-tos, like always have a drink in your hand so that nobody buys you a drink. Yeah. Yeah. And you can just say, oh, I have one. I'm good.
Exactly. Yeah.
I got my own tab.
Soda, club soda with a splash of cranberry. So it looks like a vodka cranberry.
Yeah. Maybe. And be like, oh, could I get a lime with that soda?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Not just.
Could I have that in a fancy glass? Could you just put my soda water in a martini glass, please?
Like they're washing it out.
Yes. You get to a point where you're just like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Actually, I visited a friend of mine, and she was inviting me out to like a work function with her with a whole bunch of people. And she was like, if you want, I can just buy a beer for you to hold. That way it's not weird for you. And I go, it's not weird for me. I don't care. She's like, well, I just don't want you to feel uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to have a Coke. She's like, well, they just can be very pushy and I don't want it to be weird for you. And I was like, I think this is weird for you. Yeah. That you're bringing someone who doesn't drink and I cannot come. That's okay. But it's just so like projected. And it made me feel bad for like imaginary people, if that makes sense, where I'm like, I'm fine now. But a year ago, I would have answered, yes, okay, I'll hold the beer. And then holding the beer is, well, I'm just going to take like a little sip so it looks like I'm drinking it.
Yeah. I'm just going to put it to my lips.
Yeah. And so like, I was upset for like imaginary weaker people.
Right. Oh, yes. Picking up the sword for those people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, everybody has the right to their own decisions and maybe just reminding people that you feel that way is, Yeah.
I'm just going to wear a shirt that says, I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck.
That is the best thing that I've learned doing this is that nobody cares what I'm doing.
Nobody.
Like nothing has to do with me. Anything going on has to do with you and your space and him and his space and him and his space, like everybody else. And like nobody cares what the fuck I'm doing. And it's been very freeing.
Yeah. You're reminding me of another great book, The 4 Agreements. Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
Oh my gosh. The 4 Agreements will change your life. it's a lot of spiritual talk, and it reads kind of like a lecture, but the takeaway is really amazing. And it's basically, if you make these 4 agreements to yourself, you'll live a happier life on whatever level you can. They are to not take anything personally, knowing that everything that everybody does is about them. It's not about you. To always try your best, and to remember that your best is different from day to day.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Well, we're in different situations, or maybe you're sick and your best isn't your best.
Then I failed that day.
No, you tried your best based on what you tried, what you had. Yeah, you can work on it. To be impeccable with your word, to follow through, and to not tell lies and things like that. And there's a 4th one out there somewhere.
Well, I've got 2 out of 4 so far. I feel good about the 2. Yeah. I definitely have issues with being the best. Although, I have this thing. You figured it out?
I remembered. Don't make any assumptions.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Assuming that person hates you because you're sober.
Yeah. Well, okay.
They don't hate you. They're
dealing with their things.
They're dealing with their own addiction.
So I'm doing this thing right now where if I can't fix my broken, I'm trying to use it to my advantage.
Oh yeah.
And so I have this. I tend to put my self-care on like it's not even last priority. It's not a priority.
Oh.
And it'll spiral. And I think it's kind of like what you said earlier about that. Clowning has saved your life.
Absolutely.
I realized, so I have a bad back and it goes out when it's too much stress and performing and all this stuff. And then I'm like out for like a couple of days. My last one where I'm just like laying in bed, depressed and angry at the world because I can't move. And I'm like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go to PT. I'm supposed to exercise. I'm not supposed to eat these foods. I have this list of things I'm supposed to do, but I get busy with shows and I've got to produce all this stuff that I'm planning. And so it just becomes the thing I don't even think about. And I realized that my career saved me.
Yeah.
I have lost many relationships, family members, cars, houses, things. Like I've hit multiple rock bottoms, and my shows were my constant.
Yeah.
And when everything was falling apart, I could put on my makeup and say, I'll cry later. Kiki's got shit to do.
Yeah.
And just push everything down and get through the show and be okay. And I'll deal with it later. And so it's pulled me out of many, we'll say, passive suicidal states.
Sure.
And so I feel that I have a debt to the career, to the shows. Mm-hmm. And so my shit's not a priority. The thing that saved me is the most important thing in the world. And that's something, once I realized that, I was like, okay, that's broken. And I'm trying to turn my self-care in my head to part of the show of like, well, the show stop when I don't take care of myself because I'm hurt.
Yeah.
So this is not good for that. And so I'm having to somehow manipulate the story to take care of myself.
Well, I'm really glad that the shows were a reason for you to stick around on the planet for a little bit longer. But I also maybe want to flip that script a little bit.
And I'm working on that.
And say that I absolutely resonate with it's showtime, but maybe a little bit we're using that as an escape from our life and our problems.
You think I'm using the circus as an escape from my life? What are you talking about?
I don't know. It's just an idea. It's just a theory I'm working on over here.
Constantly running away into fantasies.
Yeah.
But it's my job, so it's okay.
Sure, you're getting paid for it. I think that has many faces. reading, Netflix, escaping life, drinking and getting drunk.
Yeah.
All of those things are escaping your life.
Yeah.
And they're escaping what you really need to be focusing on, which is yourself. Because if you yourself are not healthy, happy, joyous, and free, then you can't give yourself completely to your art. I think as artists, there's so many layers, but I think that a lot of us are dedicated to making a change, making art as a political statement, as a progressive movement, as an important escape for other people's lives. But if we're not fully present, we can't be our biggest impact as an artist. So, you can try to put on that face, but if your back don't work, you're just going to be a pretty face.
Yeah.
I encourage you to take care of yourself so that you can be the best artist that you can be and really influence those lives. The thing I love about art is that you can never meet someone in person, but you can create a visceral emotional response in somebody else just through the fact of human connection that doesn't have to happen verbally or one-on-one. And there's a huge presence that is required. And, like lots of artists made really big impacts while they were on LSD or whatever. But I feel like really being present in your art is something that is a gift.
Yeah. I agree. Excuse me. I was actually just talking to my assistant, July, about that there's a kind of magic in invoking a chosen emotion in a stranger.
Yeah, it's really, really powerful. And that is the reason why I get on stage. I was a mute as a child.
Oh,
I was a selective mute.
You just have a way of being more and more interesting.
Dropping those bombs.
Yes. Okay.
I did not speak until I got on stage.
Oh my God.
I was a selective mute, so I would talk to a few family members, but as little as possible. It was so bad that I couldn't even ask for basic needs to be met in school. I would wet my pants instead of asking to go to the bathroom. I would not eat if I didn't have lunch, these type of things. And I didn't start speaking until I got on stage. I started competing in dance when I was 10, and I was like, I didn't know how to express myself. I didn't know how to express my emotions, my feelings, my fears. I'm a child of an abusive home, and getting the chance to create emotion and emote through my body without having to speak, because everyone is always trying to get me to speak. That is something that I've always held on to, and it's the number one way that I communicate my soul and my expression and my emotions more than anything else. It makes more sense to me to put those words into my body. And the fact that I can go on stage and do that, and then people understand what I'm trying to say. People come up to you afterwards and they'll say, "Oh, I loved your story about," and they'll have something that you're like, "Oh, I wasn't saying that at all," but that's what you heard.
And you needed to hear that.
And then even better than that for me is when someone knows what I am saying. And it's like, you got it. You understood.
Give me chills.
You understood what I'm trying to say, and I can't verbally say. And that is the reason why I will never leave the stage. I will be, God granted, a 95-year-old person on stage dancing in a wheelchair, hoping to reach somebody else's spirit and have that connection, because that is the truest connection that I've been able to find in this world.
So we're at final question, which makes me sad because I am having so much. I'm just enjoying this so much.
Yeah.
I love speaking. Like, hearing you talk is just sad.
Thank you.
I'm glad we've done this.
Me too.
So if you could snap your fingers and everyone around the world instantly believed two things, what would they be? The only thing is that one has to be totally selfish, self-serving, and the other one good for humanity.
I want the world to know so many things.
Nope.
I think
two only.
I think for the most impact, something for the world would be, I would choose instant acceptance of everybody, being okay with other lifestyles, other cultures. I feel like that would wipe out xenophobia, homophobia, racism.
Yeah, that's
misogyny.
You're finding a core thing to fix
I'm
rather
finding
than the
core
surface.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Automatic acceptance of everybody on the planet. That would make me feel a lot safer as a queer human in the world. And I think something for me, if everyone immediately on the snap of a finger was okay to play. I have this really goofy spirit that I always suppressed because I thought it was not okay. And I went to clown school to learn how to fail because I was afraid to fail. Growing up a dancer, I was really afraid to fail. And I learned the beauty of being goofy and the origin of play. And I feel like clown is not something that we do. I feel like clown is something that we are. I feel like in every human being is the spirit of clown, which is the mischievous want to play. And through play, we connect with other human beings. And if it was okay to play, we wouldn't have those rigid social constructs. It would be okay to trip on the street and laugh about it instead of saying, "What's that? Crack in the sidewalk." And I've really been able to embrace my goofiness and my inner child. And I think that's a gift that everybody deserves, the freedom of that.
I love that answer so much. I am so happy that I got to speak to another clown.
Yeah.
This has been wonderful. I hope we can do this again soon.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
And when tomorrow comes around, I may be 6 feet underground, but I'll still have one more.
That was Bobby Barnaby. Oh, there's a lot to unpack here. He blew my mind when he said that some psychologists say that your brain stops developing at the age you start using and then picks back up when you quit. I've tried so hard to explain that feeling to people, but I didn't have the words. So I just kept saying things like, I don't know, I'm in my second puberty. Reality's rushing in. I'm like getting 15 years of life lessons in 1 year. Do I have superpowers or am I going crazy? What he said made a lot more sense. Even with this podcast, like I went back and I listened to last year's episodes to make sure that all of these new shows coming out had a fluid timeline. And it's weird. It feels like I'm listening to a different person. I've grown so much this year. I'm happy. I'm confident. I have self-worth. It's crazy. And speaking of these people has shown me that I'm not an anomaly. This seems to be the path that most people take. So Bobby telling me that I needed to do this the right way and get a sponsor, it hit me really hard. I know that I've been told that 1,000 times, but I guess I was just finally ready to hear it. So I have these trust issues and the idea of connecting so deeply with a stranger, just giving them all my hopes and fears and no. I'd rather be normal and just say them in a microphone for every stranger in the world to hear. Yeah, I know. So when Bobby said that his sponsor lives in LA and they Skype once a week, that was a light bulb moment for me. Back in episode 7, I told you about a comedian named Curtis Matthews. I had seen him do stand-up about quitting drinking and being sober for 35 years. He said things on stage that I thought only I felt. He was a complete stranger, but hearing him be honest about all those struggles that he went through and how he overcame everything, it just made me feel so connected to him. So after my talk with Bobby Barnaby, I reached out to Curtis on Facebook and said, "Hey, I know this sounds crazy and you don't know me, but I found out that people can be sponsors over Skype and I wanted to ask if you'd be my sponsor." In true comic fashion, he responded with, "Oh, that's sweet. Fuck no." It was funny, not mean, I promise. He believes that you should have a sponsor who identifies as the same sex as you, so that way you can have someone who can relate and guide you on stuff like dating or connecting with partners or PMS and all of those things. It makes a lot of sense, but I was still kind of bitter. Like, well, fuck me then. Lower my walls, be vulnerable, reach out to someone and get rejected. Sounds real familiar. But no, he is right. And it still worked out because while he's not my sponsor, he is now my sober buddy and we talk about stuff. And he's even on an episode coming up, which is super exciting to me. So honestly, no, I still don't have a sponsor, but I am actively in the process of being able to have one at some point. So that was my first episode back. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review on the podcast. Having lots of ratings helps get the show into search engines and helps other people find it. And if you really like the show, please join my Patreon at patreon.com/KiKi Maroon. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. You choose the amount, and that money helps with the web hosting, storage, equipment, and all the other costs involved with keeping Clown Interrupted alive. You can find that link in the show notes or on my website. And as always, the theme song Last Call was graciously provided by The Last Domino. So same thing, I linked it in the show notes on the website, so check that out. And hey, have a great day. It is so good to be back, and I will see you next week.